you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away, as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music. Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope everybody is keeping well right now.
Hello everyone, welcome aboard. I'm really excited about this. I don't know why. Obviously you all know what it is because you read the title beforehand, but I haven't seen this film since I had hair below my leg, below my waist. It really has to have been about over 25 years ago.
I remember watching all three of them almost like one after the other, renting it from the local video store. So when was the third one out? That's got to have been early 90s, I'd have thought. Let's have a quick look. I should have done this before. That would have made more sense, wouldn't it? NeverEnding Story 3. That was actually 1994. So So we're looking at least 25 years since I've seen this film. It's been a long haul. Before we get into the chat, just to let you know, the first half of this podcast is going to be the NeverEnding Story. The second half, we're going to be looking at Tarantino. I know I said last week that we did have a film review, but I checked and we're under the embargo still at the moment, so that will be out in a couple of weeks' time. Anyway, the NeverEnding Story, part 1. This is not the film I had in my mind. To me, the NeverEnding Story franchise is Labyrinth. That's what I was expecting it to be, lots of funny little characters dropping in and out, and it's all Jim Henson's puppets, and it's light and happy and fun. And that's not what this film is it, Stu?
Did you confuse it in your mind that this and Labyrinth were the same film? Because
I watch Labyrinth quite regularly. I love that film. So I know that it wasn't what isn't in it. But I thought there was a lot more levity to this film. But it's actually pretty heavy going in parts, I thought.
Yeah, you've got to... I mean, you've got to question the sheer amount of drugs that they were smoking before they, before some of the stuff in this film goes on. Because, again, like we said, it's been a long, long time. And there was bits where I remember it perfectly. Like Second Nature, which is weird for a film that's this old that I haven't seen for this long, over half my life. But yeah, I know what you mean, because you think, it was like Goonies era. You think, yeah, it's gonna be dark moments, but it's gonna be a bit happy cheeriness, and it's almost the complete opposite, isn't it?
It is.
I completely forgot about the kid just being upstairs in the school, why has he got that key from the broken thing? Who knows?
The one thing that really shocked me, because the one thing that I do remember is Oh God, is it Atreus? The horse. What's the horse's name in this stew? I know that he gets lost in the swamp of misery or sadness or whatever it was called. I remember that, and you see that meme quite regularly on Twitter. That happens 33 minutes into this film. And like, you fucking kicked it off with the death of a beloved horse. And that's like as happy as this film gets. Really threw me for a loop, that did, when that happened.
I mean, that looked like going for plot holes in a film this old doesn't really matter, but if the horse was sad and the horse saddened itself to death, why then did he not sink? Because his friend died in the swamp of sadness?
Yeah, you'd think he would be heartbroken. Obviously, he's a fucking psychopath.
And that horse didn't seem that big either. Like some kind of like mini horse or big pony. Not that matters, but...
Yeah, he wasn't it? He wasn't like a big imposing... Because he's supposed to be a legendary warrior, isn't he, Atreyu? But like you say, he's just riding on a big donkey almost. Like, it's not that impressive a horse.
And he does have the hair that I kind of wished for at one point, where every time I Nicky Clarked it and straightened it, I thought, oh, this is what it's going to be like, and it never was.
You thought you were going to grow up to be Atreyu?
I think that was every young boy's dream at one point.
Yeah, when I was looking, and so he's played by Noah Hathaway. I don't know why, but I thought he was somebody else. I thought that Atreyu grew up to be the doctor in ER who looks very similar to him.
Oh.
I can't even remember the doctor's name in it, but he was one of the main guys post Clooney. And I thought that is who he was in this, but it isn't. And looking at the cast, there isn't really anybody in the cast whose name sort of jumps out at you. There's no one all that recognisable on this one. Like I'm looking at it now, so absolutely nobody stands out here. Barrett Oliver is the kid who plays Bastian. Tammy Stronach is the childlike empress. Nobody here really went on to have much of a career, which is quite surprising because, as far as I'm aware, this was like a really big film at the time.
Yeah.
And in our youth, it felt like it was a huge film for a good portion. Obviously, they made 2 sequels to it, so it must have been very successful. But no career.
No. It was weird because I was looking at him and thought, I know you. And I don't know why I know you. But then I thought at the end, he looks a little bit like Millie Bobby Brown in a way. And I thought, is there a relation there? She could be some uncle of some kind. But no, he's just one of them kids.
Yeah. Very odd. So I thought it was quite interesting. Well, I've got to say, first off, I didn't enjoy this film anywhere near as much as I was expecting to. Like I say, I thought it was going to be something completely different to what it was. It didn't have that nostalgia that I was sort of hoping for with it, because it turned out I had no idea what this film was about after I'd watched it. I was like, okay, all of that was completely new to me. But I did think that there was like some quite interesting themes that went on throughout the film that nonetheless, I think I understand why they're bringing this film back 40 years later. I understand why we're going to be getting a remake of it, because stuff like how they look at the imagination and creativity, and it's almost Inception, isn't it? Obviously the story is in his head, and they even mention about how somebody's watching Bastian, which is us. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it, the power of imagination. I think, well, it's quite a positive message to put out to kids. So I completely understand why this is coming back now. I'm hoping for something a little bit more fun and bouncy and what have you than this, if I'm perfectly honest. But how did you feel about that theme in particular, about the power of imagination?
Yeah, it was a lot deeper than I remember it being. It was almost like Who Watches the Watchmen kind of thing, where you're going from, like, you think, okay, so he's having that very OTT freak out that he's part of the story and that someone's watching him. And then I thought, hang on, if I remember watching this at the time, was I thinking that someone was then watching me? And But then in a way, because they listen to this, and we're talking. See, it's all backing on itself. They'd have to change it when you ain't going to get a dusty old book in some weirdos. I mean, how's that guy surviving? How is he making money in a bookshop like that? I know it's the 80s and everything, but still.
He's probably got like a fucking CD porn ring or something in the back room, hasn't he? That's him making his money.
I bet he was probably only about 50 years old as well. I know how old his dad looked as well at the start.
Yeah, there is something about adults in the 80s being 40 but looking 60.
Yeah, you think...
Not like us young whippersnappers, isn't it?
Well, no. So, yeah, but they didn't have dimples then, did they? So... But now, it was quite mature in parts, which I didn't expect. I mean, I know that if you take away the book thing, you probably have to do it in like some kind of VR, but then you're going into Ready Player One territory as well. So
yeah,
but then if you do the book, you're going into Jumanji, which is obviously influenced by this anyway. But I'm quite intrigued. I'm more intrigued now after watching it again than I was beforehand.
Yeah, me too. Because I feel like they could go either way with a remake of it. They can either pitch it at young adults, or they can go for possibly like your teenagers, your 10 to 12-year-olds. I feel like they could pitch it at either end and do something quite interesting for younger people. Like there is some meat to the bone of this story, I think. So I'd be quite interested to see where it goes with it.
Yeah, like a kind of Hunger Games kind of pitch. That kind,
yeah,
like that and Twilight and that kind of audience. The young adults.
Exactly. Because I mean, if you think of stuff like the Nothing, is that what the entity is called that chases them? We only get to see very much within one realm, and I feel like there is enough of a story around that they could really flesh something out and make it into an interesting series. Because from what I've read, the second and third films aren't based on anything, whereas the NeverEnding Story, the first film, is based on a book. I don't know if it's a book about Bastian who's reading a book, so it's ultimately on it. I don't know how metatextual it is, but there is a source material, whereas the others are just based on characters from that book. So I'm intrigued by it. I've got to be honest. I have absolutely no idea where they're going to go with it, but I will watch it. I think I will give it a go.
Yeah, make it 2.5 hours long as well. Get everything in there.
Well, they couldn't they? I mean, this was 93 minutes, I think, in total. But it feels like there was a lot that they could have put in there to flesh it out. Yeah,
I mean, it was weird though, because you went from a visual point of view. Some of the effects still kind of all right. Some looked absolutely awful. But within the space of a few seconds of each other, so it naturally takes you out with like rear projection and all that stuff. But other from if they're going to remake this properly, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's potentially like they could spend Lord of the Rings style money on this, couldn't they? It could quite easily be 200+ million if they wanted to do it right. But I to your point just about saying how some of the visual effects look really good in this, doesn't that go to show how good practical effects are over special effects? Like practical effects, they're there. It's a lot easier to imagine when it's a real thing rather than, a CG monster. I think that makes the world of difference in films like this for me.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't all the time. Some of it was clearly they are puppets, obviously, but some of it doesn't matter, that it just works. Like the rock thing, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the few things I remember from watching it way back when. Like, I remember the rock thing. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks, 30, 40 years on. Does it hold up? And yeah, it really did. I was surprised with that.
Well, you compare the rock thing. I mean, for clarity, we're calling them by names that you'd guess rather than their actual character names because we don't know what they are. And most people won't know what they are. You'll just remember. But if you compare that to the cave trolls in The Hobbit, which were all CG,
yeah,
one looks dated and one almost doesn't. And it's weird and baffling how the CG cave trolls look bad now, even 10 years later.
When was that film released? Was it 12? Was it 2000? Or was it later than that? I can't even remember.
Hobbit film series. So the first one was 2012, so 12 years ago.
Yeah. And like you say, when you look at the 12 years versus 40 years, you'd be wrong when you guess which one looks awful now. Makes no sense at all, does it?
No. And there was a thing, though, because as per usual, this was not available anywhere legal anyway.
No.
Which is a travesty, really. You think, okay, it's not going to cost you much money to have this as a stream. And I know they've put a few things out back. Men in Black is on Netflix on the front page, being advertised as a thing, which I love Men in Black, but I had it in multiple formats. But will I watch it on Netflix? Yes, of course. Yeah, I had it on video. I had it on DVD because I said that before about it was the dual-sided one where it was full screen on the one side and 16:9 widescreen as it was labelled at the time on the other. And then I had it on Blu-ray as well. But yeah, if you're getting things like Men in Black back on Netflix for no reason at all, other than it's going to be pretty cheap to put on there, why is NeverEnding Story not anywhere? Doesn't make any sense. So
yeah, you are right, because there's 3 films there that could quite easily get viewers, and it would get people like us who haven't seen it for a long time and just want that nostalgic hit, even though it didn't give it me in the end. But I was still hopeful of it.
Yeah, you got things like this. I mean, I mentioned it last week, like the other one, Flight of the Navigator, which I always associated with watching at the same time and things like that. And what was the one with the Rock was in the remake for? The Witch Mountain?
Race to Witch Mountain.
Yeah, that's the one. I remember that was all a kind of similar kind of era as well. Why are these things? That probably is on Disney Plus, that one, but yeah, things like that, and The Thief of Baghdad, and all these films that you watch as a kid, even though that was probably from that's probably nearly 100 years old now. But they're not anywhere, and it doesn't make any sense. Where the people who own the rights probably don't even exist anymore. So you're going to be able to get them dirt cheap. Like someone's missing a trick here. But when I went searching for it on the alternative means, I put it on, and it was a German version of it. And
right, okay.
I thought, okay. And it started, and it was silent, and it didn't have it. It didn't have the tune. It just started, and it was black. It was like it was a horror film. I mean, we can do a few seconds, can't we? I mean, obviously, I asked a few people this about the what do you think of NeverEnding Story? Have you seen it? Obviously, it varies in age.
Yeah,
more people know it from Stranger Things, and
right, okay,
than have actually even seen it. I mean, we have got some tributes.
Turn around and look at what you see.
So they know who they are. But I remember, I don't know if it was the same for you at uni, because you moved in different circles. But when it was pop night, whenever this came on, or the theme to Baywatch, people went mental. That's all it was.
Really?
Yeah. You hear them beats of Baywatch. Everyone, yeah. Without fail, everyone knows all the words to all of it. Both of them. And I think, because we are 40 years removed, will they even bother? Because people will now never in the story the song, but has it got the association anymore other than being a thing from the 80s? I'm not sure. But if they don't do it, people are going to be mad.
Yeah, like I do feel like there's going to be people who will be nostalgic for the song who will watch the remake film without ever seeing the original.
Uh-huh.
They'll watch it because of that association to the song. Like, surely they're going to have to at least cover that song to put it in there.
Or just put it like they did with the animated Spider-Man theme at the end of Spider-Man.
Yeah, they could do that. It needs to be in there somehow, I feel, because it's like it does have some legendary status of 80s pop music, doesn't it? It is one of those, you know, like I said last week when I'd mentioned Peter Cetera's Power of Love from Karate Kid. It's on that level of song where everybody does know that music, even if you were born in the last 20 odd years. I bet you will probably know NeverEnding Story, if not Lamar and Kajagoogoo, because I couldn't tell you anything else they did. Oh, was that them, was it?
Hush, hush, I do I.
I know that song.
Hush, hush, I do I. How do you not know what that is?
I know the song, I couldn't tell you who sang it.
There's been a lot more singing since Matt had been here, ironically.
Yeah, but he wouldn't allow this, would he? It'd have to be like some kind of fucking scream chord stuff. But yeah, to your point earlier, I was quite surprised how deep some of the themes of this film were. Like, they were looking into entropy and destruction, like existential dread. What kind of fucking film from the 1980s covers existential dread and environmental degradation? I feel like the themes in this film were so much more grown up than what should have been in a film that was pitched primarily at like 8-year-olds.
And you know for well, if they keep to what the themes of this are, which you've got to, it's more relevant now than it was then, and
it is.
It's going to get absolutely destroyed for being woke as hell, when actually it's just true to form.
Yeah, it's just being the never-ending story, isn't it?
Oh, God forbid that they put a black woman in it. Jesus. You know what's going to happen.
It'll get review bombed if they do, won't it? Because the childlike empress has to be white or something to that effect. That's usually how they argue, isn't it?
Oh, well, she is in mine, but we'll come to that later.
I mean, I think now's probably as good a time as any to jump onto that, Stu. So I haven't done my list because I couldn't figure out who was who. Stu is going to run through his list, and I'm just going to throw in names on who I think should be playing these roles in a 2024 production of the NeverEnding Story.
So, I'm going to age up the people in the actual, in the fairy tale land itself. So right, I went for, I know he's older than this, but if you go like 16, 17, Christopher Brinney, do you know who he is? He was in Mean Girls, which I know you've seen. Aaron in Mean Girls.
Christopher Brinney?
Yeah. I saw him in...
Yes, I know him. Yes, I recognise his face.
And not just because of the hair either. I thought he's...
Does have a good head of hair, doesn't he?
Yeah. For the vibe I'm going for, he would fit the dream world perfectly.
Right, okay.
So if we're going through the film chronologically as it was when I watched it today. So when we see the rock monster,
yeah,
John Goodman.
I mean, I was originally thinking I need to fit John Goodman into my team somehow. And that absolutely is the perfect one, because he's that big friendly giant, and it works for that character.
I mean, there's characters in this that should have been fleshed out more. I mean, I've got in the three of them in that scene that's not even mentioned again really until the very end. You're the guy in the poor man's Wonka in the top hat.
Yes,
he looks like this guy a little bit as well, and I'm replacing him with Daniel Mays.
That's a good choice. I do like Daniel Mays.
Now, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but the elf, like the kind of, I don't even know what he was, the goblin thing that was like on the bat.
Yeah.
I'm replacing him with a guy called Dave Register.
Dave Register. Who
I've only ever seen in Fallout. Is Chet in Fallout, which I've been watching.
Okay.
I've watched half of now. And I thought he's got to be related to Ryan Reynolds. He's got the same kind of mannerism, same kind of face.
He does have that long horse face look about him, doesn't he?
He's very camp as well. I thought, yeah, we need to lighten the mood of this film a little bit. It's quite dull and sad. But I thought, yeah, especially if we're extending the film out to 2.5 hours, like we said, rather than 100 minutes or whatever it was. So, well, these characters, yeah, now they go to see the Emperor, and that's the whole point, because they're nothing getting everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you barely know them.
Yeah, like there's not much character development outside of your main fella. And
then, like you said about the makeup and everything and the set, to go to all that trouble for what, 5 minutes? It seems a bit of a waste.
It is a bit, isn't it?
So then you move it on, and the Emperor himself. I mean, there's only one, Samuel L. Jackson.
Good shout.
And now, that was what I didn't remember that, like the people with like 3 faces and like the massive head things as well around the court. I completely forgot about that. That completely like wiped from my memory. But then he does go into the swamp of despair, and after his beloved horse gets pulled to its own doom, the turtle mound thing. Now, do you know who? I'll never get this right. Herre Agdashlu, Iranian woman. You look her up, you'll know who I'm on about.
Nice. Okay. Yes, I know her.
Very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
She's in loads of things. But
yeah, I wouldn't know how to pronounce her name either, but I know. I think you might be right with her, Herre Agdashlu. She was in 24?
Yeah, she was in 24. She was in the Expanse. She was the voice of something else, so she's done voice work. I know when you said earlier there's kids and a few adults in this that we can't really do anything with. Well, everything can talk, so we're going with this. We're going with an all-star cast who are not really all-star, so it wouldn't cost that much. But Falcor, I mean, I thought it was him. Oh, this is one of them broken memories thing. Ian McKellen.
I mean, he's got the voice of a big, friendly luck dragon, I think, is he? Is that what he's supposed to be, Falcor?
Yeah.
Is he a luck dragon, if I remember rightly? So, yeah, that's good.
Which I thought was Love Dragon for the first 20 minutes. And he's got sparkles on his back as well. I thought, oh.
That'd be a very different film, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Is this, there's a whole beginning there, get a bit extra action here. But then you go when he wakes up and you got that tiny elf couple.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if this is because he looks a little bit like him, David Bradley. Yes,
at first I thought that looks a lot like David Bradley, because he has the look of him, but obviously it's 40 years ago and he looks like David Bradley now, so he probably wasn't him.
And his wife would have to be Jennifer Saunders.
The dream team.
Yeah. And then the wolf thing, which I thought this was a bit shoddy when he attacks it. He's like, that looked piss poor. Yeah. He's like, they clearly ran out of money at this point. And I thought, you need someone do you go with someone with a bellowing evil voice, like a bit like Wizard of Oz? Or do you completely change it up and go for someone assured? And again, because I'd been watching Fallout, I'm going Matt Berry.
So you're going with some comedy?
A little bit.
Comedy. Make it something, give him a snarl or something when he's doing it. That'd be doable. I mean, Matt Berry does have the best voice in modern day acting, doesn't he? I could almost feel like you could give him any role and he would be, he would do it with aplomb.
I mean, him playing Snip in just watch Fallout. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I need to. I've got it on the list of things to do. Just haven't had a chance this week.
And this is why I aged up your main man as well, because I thought, well, it would look a little bit weird, because I'm going for that kind of 80s vibe where the whole thing of the teenage boy like trying to impress a young woman who's quite obviously about 10 years older than him.
Mm.
I thought, well, who is the most Empress person you can think of? And it's obviously Sydney Sweeney.
See, because all I was thinking was Natalie Portman, but obviously she's far too old for it. But in my mind, Natalie Portman is always going to be how old she was in the Star Wars films. Yeah, like she's that age for eternity for me.
And the bully kid, I mean, I haven't seen it. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and I never watched it. But I know you've seen it. The kid from Jojo Rabbit.
Okay, yeah.
Roman something.
I couldn't tell you the kid's name, but yeah, I know the one you mean.
The one he loved.
Griffin Davis.
Yeah, that's the one. He loved Hitler or something. I can't remember. I don't know why I never watched that film.
I thought you had seen Jojo Rabbit.
I mean, I fucking might have done. It's just been erased from my head.
Yeah. It's fine. No more, no less. It's fine.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
This remake would be fine. This remake would be excellent.
I'm all for it. Who are you having directing it? Like, do you go with someone like Chris Columbus, who's got that track record of working with young casts, or do you go with someone who a bit more of a storyteller, like a Peter Jackson style? Who do you reckon?
Tim Burton.
Not watching that.
In a way, I know he's retired now, hasn't he? But Paul Verhoeven would be amazing at this.
We just imagine. Fucking hell.
The most mental thing ever.
Yeah, I would be well up for seeing a Paul Verhoeven version of the NeverEnding Story. I mean, it would be more grim than it already is, wouldn't it? Let's be honest.
Matt
more dystopian.
Matt Berry doing the only lifting in the entire 2 hours.
I'd definitely watch it though. Definitely watch that. Excellent. Brilliant. Right. Okay. So we'll move on. We'll have a chat about Quentin Tarantino next. Welcome back. So the news broke on the 18th of April that Quentin Tarantino is no longer going to be making the film. Was it the Film Critic or the Movie Critic? Actually, can't remember what the name of the film was supposed to be. I'll start that again. Let me find out. Movie Critic. Welcome back. Thanks a lot for joining us. We thought we'd have a quick chat about QT, Quentin Tarantino, because at time of recording today, 18th of April, it was announced that Quentin Tarantino has dropped the Movie Critic as his final film. So he won't be producing that one as his 10th movie. I don't know why he's so obsessed with only doing 10 movies and then moving on. It seems a bit bizarre, but regardless, the Movie Critic won't be that movie. Obviously, because it was so early in the run of making that movie, not much information had really come out about it. It was rumoured to loosely be based on the legendary film critic Pauline Kael. But realistically, I can't see how that would have made a movie out of the life of a film critic. I've seen the documentary on her. She's not a Quentin Tarantino superstar kind of thing. It didn't make sense. But anyway, regardless, that's not going to be the next movie. Stu, what are your thoughts on this 10 and out thing with Tarantino?
It's a strange man, eh?
It's a really strange one.
If anything ever come out about any director, he'd be the number one choice, wouldn't he? That it would shock no one if there was bad things happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he seems like a great nerdy bloke. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. I know your man said the other day after releasing Civil War that he's not doing anymore, which is odd. I mean, I enjoyed that as well. But Tarantino's different level, and there's not many bad ones in that list. So
there's really not, is there?
So unless that's the reason why this is canned and he wants to go out on a complete high, a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, who knows? But is he going to do that for every film now for the end of time? Just keep, we'll start this, if it's not good enough, go again.
I mean, that's entirely possible, isn't it? If he's going to keep looking for the perfect idea, who knows when inspiration will strike. He's obviously never been that prolific when it comes to putting out films that he's directed, because there's only 10, and he's been going for over 30 years now. I think what was his first film was Reservoir Dogs, which was 92. So, yeah, we're looking over 30 years as a director. So, yeah, it's a bit of an odd one for me, this is. So I thought we'd have answer a few questions, a bit like we do when we do deep dives into actors. And I've got 7 questions for you, Stu, basically, on the works and life and time of Quentin Tarantino. So, do you remember what the first Tarantino film was that you saw?
I think it was Pulp Fiction. Just because everyone had already talked about Reservoir Dogs, and obviously we were nowhere near old enough to get in to watch that at the time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, it was the bad word, wasn't it? Like, no parent's going to let you watch Reservoir Dogs and all that kind of bollocks at the time. So there was no way of getting hold of it. And I think someone had a copy of, or someone's dad had a copy of Pulp Fiction. Yeah. And we watched that. I remember watching it with a group of people. So looking at it, and I know that we watched Jackie Brown in the cinema. So it must have been Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I think mine was Pulp Fiction as well.
Imagine that as a start.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction was mine, and I saw Jackie Brown in the cinema. Jackie Brown might have been the first 15 film I saw at the cinema without a parent. Like, I think it was the first time I'd seen a 15 in the cinema with just friends. That was 1997, so that would have been what? 13, 14? So yeah, that was the first time we went under the radar to see a film we shouldn't have. But yeah, Pulp Fiction was my first one. And like, I feel like Reservoir Dogs probably got more notoriety after Pulp Fiction. I mean, we're casting our mind back 30 years here. Pulp Fiction would have been 11, Reservoir Dogs I would have been 9. So probably would have missed the conversations about Reservoir Dogs anyway, in fairness. But I feel like Pulp Fiction was the one that really sort of put him on the map as the director to keep an eye on, more so than maybe Reservoir Dogs, which a lot of Reservoir Dogs, it's the needle drop and it's the cutting the ear off, isn't it? Yeah. Those two things really sort of, I think that's what everybody knows about that film, rather than everything that went along with it as well. But yeah, Pulp Fiction's, I think, is just an outstanding movie. Even 30 years later, I think that is better than what a lot of directors are able to produce. It's just an incredible feat of work, in my opinion. It's absolutely one of my favourites of his, still to this day.
I mean, that was a dissertation piece in year 1 at uni. It was on Pulp Fiction, and I might have. I'd be interested if I can find it on one of the old hard drives in the loft that still work. It was almost an hour worth of PowerPoint presentation on it. Which, again, you're thinking back then how difficult that was to screen grab DVD. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did it on a laptop, so it was one of them. The laptop had a DVD player in it, in the computer terminal place. So you go in there and you grab the footage, and then you could manipulate it and export it to. You can do it on a phone now. How old we are!
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that film. And I haven't seen it for ages for a reason that I don't really want to watch it that many times. So I love it so much.
I think for a period of time, it was like my drunk film. When I'd get back from a night out at Blast Off, I'd either stick on Pulp Fiction or Chasing Amy, the Kevin Smith film. no idea why, but those are the films that'd be like, right, it's 2:30, it's time to watch a film. And it'd be one of those two for some reason.
We, I can't remember what it was now, but there was one where, when you might listen to this, you might not, but we, when I was seeing someone at uni and me and Goldie went back to Halls after a Friday night, probably in Blast Off as well at some point. We went back there, and obviously it was a normal hall, so you had four bedrooms, the living room area, and the kitchen, but obviously the toilets were in each room. So it was me, him, and a certain other person that you met once who was a bit insane. And we all went back, and obviously I was with one of them, and let's just say Gold was literally left there on his own in the living room, just watching DVDs all night. And I remember it being a terrible film as well that he was enduring. Well, he was forced to watch because he had no choice, because he couldn't get out because there was no one to let him out for security because he couldn't get through the doors.
Jesus,
I think that might have been the night when we got caught, when I had to go downstairs and I had them. Remember them when Wolves sold them comedy Y-fronts? It was that night.
Oh my God. So, I mean, comedy Y-fronts, why on earth did you buy them knowing full well? I mean, it's you, isn't it? That's the answer. It's because it's Centrefold, that's why. Yeah.
Well, they were there, and I thought, well, I'm going to wear these, and I'm going to wear them with pride, just to get it's the kind of reaction you don't want to be laughed at when you're undressing, do you? It's my bored mind at the time. And yeah, they were black with like gold. The gold Y-front station and a big wolf head on the protruding areas. So I just went out, and then we got locked out, so we had to go back down to the security office to get a key to get back in the place, which was not the best in the world. So the photos did exist at some point. I have not got them anymore. So if I did, I would post them on Twitter and everyone could see it and have a laugh. But I haven't got them, sadly.
I wonder where they are.
Well, Goldie had them last time I heard, so who knows where he did with them.
Yeah. Reach out, Goldie, let us know where they are. We need to see the evidence here. Next question. One criticism often levelled at QT is that he's style over substance. The non-linear storytelling, sharp dialogue, pop culture references, that's where the themes tend to be fairly basic in comparison to that. So his films tend to just be about, it's a revenge story, it's a redemption story, it's violence. Is the style over substance criticism valid, do you think? Or do you think that that's part of the appeal, that he's able to tell a basic story with all the bells and whistles that make it somewhat sexy and enticing?
I think it's a positive more than a criticism. I think you know exactly what you're going to get, with a few exceptions. But you know, there's so few of them that you know that they're going to be of a certain kind. And if he turned up and he was directing Transformers 6 and it just wouldn't work. He's like, well, what's the point? You're going to watch a Tarantino film for a reason, and you want a certain style. Surely that's the whole point of it. I've never understood it, why people say, oh, this is all he is. But what is Spielberg then? You know what I mean? Everyone's got their own thing. His thing just happens to be still quite unique.
Yeah. I think the pop culture-ness of it is often what people look to. They almost use it being a lot of sort of contemporary references they use as a stick to beat him over the head with. Because if you're talking about stuff that's happening now, it's not timeless. Or it's often not timeless, should I say. But I think that Tarantino is able to sort of make those references, but also make them feel like they're more important than just what he's saying today. Like the conversation in Kill Bill when they're talking about Superman. Like a lot of people was very negative towards that because of it being Superman and pop culture-y, and it's this morality tale, Kill Bill, and why they're talking about a comic book here. But if you take it out of or you put it in the context of what they're talking about, he's able to use pop culture to mean more than just popular culture, I think. I think he's got a way with words that he's able to embed ideas beyond just their physical limitations. And that's why I'm such a big fan of Tarantino, because I think his script work is probably, top 5 all time. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think he's one of the best writers ever. I think he's absolutely outstanding, and he's often imitated and never duplicated.
Yeah, and you said the pop culture stuff. Even you go back to things like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Look at the soundtrack. All this obscure fucking shit from years ago. So I know what you're talking about dialogue, but if you frame that with a soundtrack as well, it's like, well, okay, you're releasing a film in the year that it's been released. It's not up to you to then make it timeless. I've never understood it. It's like saying, I mean, we could have a whole thing about this. I mean, is it better to put a certain date rather than saying present day? Because then 10 years later, present day doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, good point. So, you could say 1994 for Pulp Fiction, for example. It immediately puts you in that period of time rather than it just being today. You are. Yeah, it's a good idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the next question forward, because you've just mentioned the needle drops, that his use of music. So obviously he gets a lot of praise for the use of music in his work. Any personal favourite needle drops? Anything stand out? I mean, obviously, the Reservoir Dogs, the Stuck in the Middle with You, I think was his first one. And I think every film he tries to do one of those almost, it feels like.
Kill Bill. Just, that's something I hadn't heard that song before.
8, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the Crazy Eights battle. Yeah.
I'd never heard it before. I thought, oh, this is cool. Then you realise how old it is. What?
Mm.
I know he's a connoisseur of the oddball and the weirdness, and he's got very niche interests anyway. But still, you presume that he gets these ideas and he finds this stuff, and there's not people in the background. And it doesn't really matter who comes up with it, really. But you like to think that it's all on him because it just works. And you'd never think of it.
Yeah, like his musical knowledge must be quite extensive, because he does pull out some like absolute pop classics like Cat People, Berry in Inglourious Bastards, and then also your more obscure songs as well that really are able to cut through, and almost he's given some songs a second lease of life as well off the back of his films. It's quite impressive what he's able to achieve.
And you think, if you didn't have Tarantino, and I just thought about that then, when A Little Less Conversation came back for the Nike advert?
Yes.
With that remix. Would that have happened without Tarantino doing this kind of stuff for years beforehand? Because who on earth thinks of remixing an old Elvis song and putting it to a Nike advert? I think it was Nike. It was a football advert anyway.
Yeah, it was Nike, wasn't it? It was the one in the cage.
Yeah, it was a cage one.
Yeah.
And it made Elvis cool again, out of nowhere. So, if you're talking about influences and stuff like that, then there's one right off the bat. Needle drop into culture itself. Yeah.
I do think he's had like one of the biggest cultural footprints of any director who's sort of started working within the last 30 years. I feel like he's probably the most recognisable of anyone, possibly with the exception of maybe someone like Chris Nolan. In regards to needle drops, I'd say mine, Jackie Brown Across 110th Street. I mean, that song is an absolute banger that, back in 97, I probably wouldn't have heard of that song before. And it's one like I don't feel that many people, even to this day, know it other than the song from Jackie Brown.
I think Jackie... I've seen Jackie Brown about 4 times ever, and I know last time we talked about Tarantino, probably when this film was announced, I said I need to watch Jackie Brown again because from memory it seems too mature for where I was last time I watched it. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
Before people start, I'm not saying I'm mature now. I'm older, but and not necessarily wiser, but more lived in. So I think it's got more chance of resonating now than it did back then, because I really didn't like it when I watched that in the cinema. I was really disappointed.
Same. Yeah, I in complete agreement. I saw it at the cinema, did not enjoy it, and I've seen it back since. I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. I didn't understand it. I was just too young to fully comprehend what it was about. But yeah, it is a good film. And I keep meaning to do a Quentin Tarantino rewatch anyway, because there's a couple of films on the list that I think I've only seen once, like Death Proof, I've only ever watched once, and The Hateful Eight, and the most recent one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I didn't love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on first viewing, so that's sort of why I want to rewatch that one, just to see if it was just a case of it didn't chime with me then, but it just needed a bit of breathing space, maybe. I don't know.
What was the other one? The other Grindhouse film? Was it Grindhouse?
It was Grindhouse with
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror, yeah. Not Robert Rodriguez. Who's the other? Oh, it is Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Eli Roth as well, wasn't it? Yeah, it's got the 3 of them on there.
That was it. We did actually do that double feature. And we do that. Because not many places did.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Planet Terror.
Is it good? Probably not. That is one I've only ever seen it once, and that was that. I mean, looking at that, Rotten Tomatoes 84, IMDb 7.5. So,
it's got a decent respect towards it. Okay. Yeah, for whatever reason, never watched it. It looked fun, because I remember it looking kind of, well, it's Grindhouse, isn't it? It looks like a Grindhouse film, so it looked like it was going to be some kind of B-movie scuzziness. And I remember enjoying Death Proof when I watched that, but like, I've only seen it once, and I think I only saw it maybe 2 years ago as well. So fairly recently for a film that was out in 2007.
Yeah, is it? Because that was the whole point, wasn't it? That he was harking back to the glory days of Hollywood with a double feature and all that stuff. And
yeah, I wish they'd have released it over here as the double feature, but they didn't, did they? I think they did one night at like our local cinema where they showed both back to back.
Yeah,
but I don't think they ever did. They ever released it as actual Grindhouse. It was released as 2 separate films. Another needle drop that I think's really good, the little green bag in Reservoir Dogs where they're walking down the street. Again, that's potentially top 3 most iconic Tarantino needle drops, because I've seen that scene done so many times. People walking down, I mean, even thinking of like fucking The Room where they're walking around in their suits. Like, it feels like that was them arcing back to Reservoir Dogs, and with that little green bag soundtrack to it as well. That's one of the most parodied moments of all time. So I think that's a classic moment for me as well.
Even though it was just called Woohoo on Kill Bill. And that was everywhere for years afterwards.
Wasn't it on like a Carling advert or something?
Yeah. It was that something it was everywhere. And it went the other way at the end. It was like, oh, fucking hell, not again.
Yeah, it was inescapable, wasn't it? Whilst we're talking about Kill Bill, are you a 1 or a 2?
1. Well, we could talk about Matt's toilet trouble another day when he gets back. It's all okay, don't worry. Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know what I was going to expect actually from Kill Bill Volume 2. Maybe I kind of hyped it up too much in my head, and it didn't end up being where I thought it was going to be. But that's not to say it's a bad film. It's just not what I expected, and that's my own fault. But I prefer the first part better, personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the first film's the better of the two. I really like the sequel as well. But yeah, I think Volume 1's a better film, which is quite surprising, really, because generally I like stuff with a bit more plot, and the first film doesn't have a lot of plot. It's mostly action-driven, but it's really good action, I think, in that one. And obviously Kill Bill 2 is a lot more talky, isn't it? But I think it works better, especially in that particular genre of film where we get the more action and the less conversation, to go back to our Elvis chat just. But yeah, Volume 1 for me as well, I think, is the better film.
It also brought the remember the whole thing about it at the time and how she was wearing the Bruce Lee outfit and all that stuff. Top Man at the time bought out like a replica version of their Asics trainers, but they had like two stripes like going like horizontally, and they're like it wasn't like a tick or anything like that. It was just kind of a mark on the side, but it was effectively gold and black. So what did I have? I had to get them, didn't I? And that was, and that. But that was that was my first foray into things like that. The colourful shoes. But I bought two pairs because I kept one just for match day, and that has never changed. So when did Kill Bill come out? Was that 2002?
Kill Bill Volume 1, 2003. Volume 2 was 2004.
See, it makes sense because remember when we signed Henri Camara and he had them orange boots?
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to be like Henri Camara and not have a Senegal flag. That was silliness. That didn't work, did it? Our Indian friends are going to have no idea what this pot's about.
Not a clue.
Yeah, so with Henri Camara wearing bright boots, and I thought, okay, you got Kill Bill, which is Volume 1, which is excellent. You now got the opportunity to own these comfortable shoes. Why not? So I bought a pair for every day, and then I bought a pair especially for match day, which I wore for years. And then ever since then, so 21 years, I've had some kind of yellowy orange footwear on match day.
I wonder if they're available on like StockX or anything.
Well, the top
Asics ones.
The Asics, yeah, they're on. I was going to say Onimusha Tiger, but it's not Onimusha. It's something Tiger, and they cost a fortune now.
Onitsuka Tiger,
yeah,
Mexico 66. They're nice. They are.
They're really expensive.
I've got them. Yeah, onitsukatiger.com. 130 quid.
Are they the orange ones, the yellow ones?
I don't know if you can see that. It's
oh yeah, that's some, yeah.
130 quid.
That hasn't changed since, because I bought some. I finally got some when I went to Jersey in 2005, and they were over 100 quid then. So I expected them to have gone up a lot more since that. So 30 odd quid in 20 years, ain't bad.
Get them. I might have.
Get them ordered. The amount of fucking Jordans you've got in your house, you might as well get them as well.
It's my birthday, like in a few weeks' time, as you know. And my other half has already bought me some Jordans because I couldn't get the size in New York. So she's bought me some off StockX, the size that I was looking for. I need to stop buying trainers, but I do love them. So,
how many is there? 40?
I mean, in total, with shoes and everything, it's got to be pushing. It's got to be pushing 40, I'd have thought. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, they're not all Jordans and what have you. They're not all really expensive ones. But it's just one of those things. I see a pair of trainers and I'm like, I'll get them. I'll wear them twice because I don't want to ruin it. Like my Spider-Man Jordans, I think I've worn them once to see Spider-Man and I don't want to ruin them, so they're still in the box.
Well, I entered middle age by buying some Skechers the other day. Yeah, exactly. I've said this about the Croc thing, and I thought I'm going to buy Skechers. I've now worn them twice because they're just white. It's white on white with the S is white as well, so it's white on white. Which obviously living in Wolverhampton is not the best idea in the world. So I've had to wait for it to be bone dry outside, just so I can walk. And I know I'm not going to be walking on any grass, just pure path, just to keep them white. And when they were like 40 quid, let alone buying multiple versions of Jordans to put in your glass shelf.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at the sketches now. They don't look that bad, to be fair. The white on white stuff. You wouldn't necessarily know they were sketches, I suppose.
I mean, I don't care that they're sketches. I mean, good enough for Harry Kane, good enough for me.
I mean, I would care if they were sketches. I wouldn't be able to. I mean, the fact that I now own Crocs, albeit not the bog standard everyday wear Dean Marston ones, not those. Sorry, Dean. But yeah, but
have you got the little things that you put in them as well?
Well, my mum did buy me some for Christmas. Like, tried to get me to buy some, taking the piss, and so I have the turtles gibbets, I think they're called. I could be wrong. I have the gibbets of each of the 4 turtles, so I feel like I probably should buy some just to put those in, but I'd never wear them.
So how does it work though? Because if you're showing something through, surely it gets the other side. Does it tickle the top of your foot, or does it just jab into the little plastic?
It's sort of like a button on the other side, so it sits flush against the plastic, so it wouldn't be like rubbing against your skin or anything. Because they're clogs anyway, aren't they? So they're not close to your feet.
Because I've got some of them, them you see on Amazon sometimes, them laces that are not laces and they're like elastic things.
Yeah,
you just put across. And I bought some of them. I thought, oh well, I'll give them a go. They look better than it, and it saves time tying laces. And I put them in, and I followed all the instructions. I know instructions to do laces, I know, but I followed all the instructions and everything. And I tried to walk. I went on the school run, and my feet were killing. It was like because it was. So I hadn't thought it through that. Oh yeah, obviously you're putting these things to the other side of where the laces are, and that's it's on the tongue, obviously. But then the tongue's pressing down on the top of your foot, and it was like walking with grit. Oh, how is this? Why does this? How has this got so much positive?
That doesn't make sense, does it?
4,000, like 4,000, like 4.5 stars on Amazon. I thought, is it just me? Are my feet so special that they can detect these things? But who knows? That didn't work anyway. But yeah, I know we've got more. It's probably Dean's influence as well. That certain other listeners are crop fanatics and have their little special things in the top. So we need to be told. I mean, you should all stop it anyway, really. But if you're going to persist, we need to be told how it works.
Well, this is the thing. I remember Crocs coming out and being a thing in like maybe 2005, 6, something like that. They were quite popular. And then everyone took the piece and they vanished and we never saw them until like the last couple of years where they seem to have been eking their way back into pop culture, and I don't get it. Get it.
It's this, there is a name for it. It's like the comfort wear market. It's got a special name.
Right, okay.
How post lockdown, no one gives a fuck anymore. You just walk down the street in a tracksuit. If you'd done that like 10 years ago, you'd been stoned or called a nonce or something. Now everyone does it, so it doesn't matter. But
it is wild how many people you see go outside in fucking pajamas now.
Yeah, I saw one today, literally today, this afternoon. That was 3:15 in the afternoon. A woman in a big coat, Crocs, and pajamas on. She hadn't got dressed all day. I mean, fair play to you. Do what you want to do, but it just seems a bit bizarre. I
miss when shame was a thing, personally. Not good. Anyway, back to Tarantino. His films often portray morally ambiguous and complex characters. Any personal favourite characters? I mean, The Bride's very high on my list. I think anytime Uma Thurman has done work with QT, like Pulp Fiction, she was fucking outstanding in that as well. She carried a film with a lot of big hitters in. I think she's a really good actor in those films, and I don't feel like she's done a lot of good outside of those. Don't know if I'm being harsh there, but in those films she's outstanding. Everything else, she's just sort of there. Anyone else stand out for you, Stu?
I actually quite like Jamie Foxx in Django, but as Django. I thought he did a good job. But I think we talked about him last week, though, didn't we? In Christoph Waltz.
Yes.
Hans Landa. That character's incredible.
Is that the only film of Tarantino's that
No, he was
an Oscar winner?
Oh, was he?
Won an Oscar. One of his actors. I don't know if any other film that he's done has had an acting Oscar. Just quickly scanning through now, I don't think there has been. I think that might be. Yeah, I think that might be his only actor nomination. Which, I mean, in fairness, that is a hell of a performance that he puts in that movie.
De Niro was in Jackie Brown.
Did he win for that though?
Probably not. I'm just thinking, when did he win? So
Brad Pitt won for Best Supporting Actor for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. I'd completely forgotten about that one. I know he's had a few nominees, but I wasn't sure how many actual winners he's had.
It feels like there should be something for Hateful Eight, but then no.
Great cast, but yeah, he won one Oscar. What was that one for? That's quite surprising. So looking on the Hateful Eight, there's a TV version of it, an extended version, 4 episodes. That's interesting. It won Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Pictures and Original Score for Ennio Morricone.
Yeah.
Which, thinking about that was outstanding in fairness. But yeah, the Hateful Eight extended version TV series, 3 hours, 30 minutes, 4 episodes, streaming on Netflix. How am I only just learning about that?
So how long is it anyway?
So the original
2 hours 48.
Hateful Eight, I say it's a long film, so there's another 45-ish minutes on top of it.
Does it make sense at all?
No, I'm going to need to do a QT rewatch, I think. Almost certain of it now.
So when did this come out?
Where's that? Can't. Just lost the tab that I had open.
Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight extended version 2019. So 4 years after the film was released. We've spoke about this before. The problem with Netflix is they dump so much shit onto their streaming service without really giving it any airtime. It gets no chance to breathe and find an audience. So the amount of times that shows have been dropped on there and a week later they've been forgotten about.
It's not even on Netflix now?
I'd say, unless it's just the American one, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was on there. Extended version, TV series 2009. On where to watch. It's available to buy on the YouTube and Prime.
Very interesting. I'm sure we'll have to find that one to give that a view. In fairness, I might just have a look on my VPN and see if it's available on US.
But it's all about that. There was a thing that you have been talking about in the group that I had not heard of at all until this week. This reindeer thing, and everyone's on about it. I've not even seen it advertised on there.
I think it's often the first thing on the Netflix app. It's usually like the one that they're promoting this week. I think it's only been released in the last fortnight or so. So I don't know much about it other than I've heard it's good, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. But it's the flavour of the week for Netflix. So, this time next week, then I've moved on to something else, no doubt. But apparently very good from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that'll be next up once I've done Fallout. But Again, that'll be the problem with that, because it was all dumped in one go for a change. People are not going to talk about it in a month's time. Be over.
No, it feels like it needs something to change the current landscape of things when it comes to streaming. But I did see the other day that Disney Plus are doing this revolutionary new thing called channels, where they'll be showing shows like a normal TV channel. It's sort of absurd, isn't it, that they're going back to the old way. Realistically, I have no issue with them just dropping an episode at midnight every week, and then you can fit that in around your schedule. That's how I want to watch my TV now, I think. I don't want to be binging stuff. I don't feel like you get the most out of it if you watch a dozen episodes of a show in a day, because you don't want to risk missing the conversation around it or having it spoiled.
No. Well, this is why I've watched 4 episodes of 4 later weeks. I watch one a day. And I don't mind it when I think Prime do that sometimes, don't they? Where, well, again, that's why it's so weird with the Fallout being on there, that they've done it like this, where they normally do the first 2 or 3 and then do it weekly. I mean,
yeah.
If they do, I mean, there's a happy medium here, and just do it 2 a week or 3 a week. Do it that way. Then you can let it build up if you want, or you've got a month's worth of content there rather than a week. Just seems a way.
This is it. Like, I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, because if, say, Netflix have got 8 new shows to come out, and what they'll do is they'll drop 8, or they'll drop like 2 one week, 2 the next week, 2 the week after, 2 the week after. You're not going to watch all 8 of those series in the way they've put that out like that, with 2 per week. Whereas if they put out 1 episode from all 8 of those on a Saturday, chances are you can fit those 8 in the week before the next drop. And then if you are the kind of person who just wants to binge, that's fine. You just wait till the end and then you can binge it all.
Yeah, that's I don't understand. It's almost like it's gone. So that's the way it used to be. Oh, if you didn't want spoilers, then you went out. You either watched it at the time, as it was on, or you waited till the end and then did it all before the last episode. And now it's like you have to do it the other way.
Yeah.
Or you just disconnect it from everything. I mean, that was why I was doing. So again, Shogun. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. That I think me and Ash are the only people who I know who've watched it. I know it's as niche as it comes, but still, that was weekly, and
it's found its audience, and it's been massively praised for it as well.
Yeah, and it's so intense. You've got to be a maniac to try and binge that, because you have to and not just because it is subtitled, because it's like hardcore.
It's intense.
Yeah, you've got to concentrate on it, and watching having the option of them two, and that's what I was doing. I was watching one episode of Shogun, and then the next day I was watching Fallout, and doing it this way because it's there. I ain't got the patience to wait for 8 weeks. I ain't watching one a week when it's all there, which is probably part of the problem. But I'd rather not.
But I often find when they release a lot in one go, something inevitably falls to the wayside. That's why I still haven't watched the last season of Umbrella Academy, even though I loved the ones that went before it. Because a lot came out at the same time, and then a lot more came out, and you're constantly trying to play catch up, and you've got absolutely no chance. So eventually things just fall off the list, and then all of a sudden you're several years down the line and you haven't seen it. And Netflix have got this vast catalogue that they're just not getting the use out of. Because even now, when you look at like the most streamed things, it ends up being like It's Always Sunny, it's Friends, it's stuff that people have watched time and time again, and people just want to rewatch that stuff. The newly created stuff from Netflix, the original stuff, doesn't get as much of a look in. I think it's because they released too much of it.
Yeah. It was when you only had House of Cards, which actually that's a point. Now that he's been, well, he's been exonerated. Let's say not necessarily cleared. I mean, they could go back. They should go back and finish that properly, rather than that abomination of the final season that we ended up with. That'd be a nice thing to do. But like, I watched that Homicide New York. It's like 5-part documentary series about murders in New York in over the decades. But it's from like North Manhattan and South Manhattan precincts and stuff, and like how they're all interlinked and things like this. They've all worked there. It's quite fascinating. I mean, it doesn't make New York look like a very nice place, and makes it look a bit terrifying. But again, that was just one of them things. It was on there on number 5 this today in the UK. I was like, oh, okay. But it's 5 episodes, an hour each. Don't really have to concentrate that much. Power through that, but you're doing that. You're powering through that, and then you could have been watching Shogun, or you could have been watching something else. And now this reindeer thing, which I'm going to have to watch because everyone's talking about it now, and it's all going to get ruined, even though it's real. But this is why he's only doing 10 films, because he knows it's not going to fit in.
That's exactly it, isn't it? He doesn't want his work to be muddied. He doesn't want to muddy the water, I think. Just have 10 very good films. And yeah, I think, like, I kind of appreciated that he's giving himself like a deadline, because obviously, as we're watching Nick Cage films and the fucker's making more and more, if they're going to get the end of it, if it had picked QT, it would have been fine. But no, never mind.
There's some lunatics who are doing it with Willem Dafoe.
Yes, our friends on another Cage pod that have joined together to do the Dafoe universe, which I like Willem Dafoe. I'm not sure I could stomach doing a full rewatch of his whole catalogue. Like, Cage is crazy enough. I think Dafoe is potentially the next level of batshit.
There's Steve Buscemi left.
Do like Steve Buscemi. What films of Tarantino's would you recommend to anyone coming freshly to the Tarantino verse?
I think this is tough because it depends who they are and their tolerance for the violence. Because I mean, that was the whole thing with my mom, trying to get her to watch Hateful Eight, because I deliberately didn't mention his name because I knew what she'd do. It's almost like how I tricked her into watching Saltburn, and vice versa. So yeah, you like your dramas and your thrillers, don't you? So you enjoy this. And then her exact words are, "What the fuck is this?" I mean, just stick with it. It gets better. And then you could tell that she'd watched the bath scene, or her reaction. But coming to it first, I mean, you'd probably say, I mean, looking at that list, I mean, the Hateful Eight is probably easy to get into.
Yeah, I think that's potentially the most accessible.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because they've all, I mean, you got Kill Bill, it's split in 2 anyway. Pulp Fiction's all over the place. Reservoir Dogs is too violent. Jackie Brown, I haven't seen it for too long. Django's too long. So,
yeah,
if you're coming in fresh, I'd probably say, yeah, see if you like this style of stuff. If you do, then you can probably go to Inglourious Basterds, because it's a bit more serious. And then work your way from there. I think that's what I'd recommend.
So I was thinking I would go with Kill Bill Volume 1. Because if you like Kill Bill Volume 1, you've then got an easy step into Kill Bill Volume 2. If you're going to watch Kill Bill Volume 2, you're probably hooked at that point, to be perfectly honest. You've got a good flavour of everything that Tarantino does with his ultra-violence, his love of samurai and action films. But then in Kill Bill 2, whilst there is themes of the Far East, it's also a Western movie for portions of it as well. So I think that could then lead into stuff like, you know, Django Unchained and Hateful Eight. And then I think Hateful Eight, you'd probably then go into Inglourious Basterds. You'd probably then go back to the start and watch some of his older stuff. So I think Kill Bill Volume 1 is probably the most accessible. And if you like it, it opens up the rest of the world. And if you don't like it, then, well, you've seen his best film, one of his best films, and you know it's not for you. So fine. So for me, I think Kill Bill Volume 1 is the one I would go with personally. Flip side of that coin though, Stu, what would you want people to avoid? Is there anything a newbie should avoid as their first film, do you think?
I mean, the obvious answer is Pulp Fiction because of the narrative and the fact that I can't think of anything that's done it since. There's things that have been told out of order, but not to this extent. I remember watching it and not knowing that, so that was a bit of a headfuck moment.
Yeah.
Probably like, I presume everyone was in that boat first time round, that no one had been told about it, which it would have been good if that was the case. Obviously, we were too young, so we don't know. But for that reason alone, I'd say Pulp Fiction because it can kind of break your mind.
Yeah, I had thought of that because obviously you have the scene where Butch is Bruce Willis's character, isn't he? Where he gets killed and then you see him alive in the next scene. And you do need to be quite switched on to watch it, I think. So that's a good shout. The one I was going to go with is Reservoir Dogs. Because obviously that is a whole film that in any other movie would have been a 5-minute scene. They stretch it out and they fill in the bits in between, which I think is really interesting if you're a film nerd. But if you're not a film nerd, I don't know if you might get a little bit lost in it, or maybe even a little bit bored, maybe, if you don't sort of get the minutiae that goes on around Reservoir Dogs. So I don't think that would be the film to start on. I think that would be one of the later ones. I'd tell people to avoid that as their first jump into the world. But there's no film on his list at all that I would say don't watch. Like, there aren't many directors that I could say that about. There's no, just off the top of my head, like even Scorsese's got a couple of stinkers, and I love Scorsese. I think the worst Tarantino film is still like 4 stars. I think he's that good a director that he's able to sort of speak to most people, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about Jackie Brown here. But still, you're right. It's still infinitely watchable. I am going to do that. I might watch it next week. Just to do like what you said, that you need to watch it now rather than as a youth trying to beat the man, beat the program by getting in underage. And I think there's probably more of a reason that obviously, but apart from there isn't really that much violence compared to the others in Jackie Brown, from what I remember. It's more of the themes, I suppose. But then I remember watching American Werewolf in Paris underage because we could. But that was shit. So
yeah.
that was an enjoyable way to break the rules rather than with Jackie Brown. So I'd still rather watch Jackie Brown than a lot of things that we've watched over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question then. So Tarantino has stated he plans to retire after directing 10 films. What do you hope his final project will be? Is there any themes, any genre, anything in particular that you think is left on the table for Tarantino? I mean, I don't know if I'd want to see him do sci-fi or horror, to be perfectly honest. I feel like Tarantino's strength comes from stuff that's at least mostly based in the real world, even if it's heightened version of the real world. So I don't know if I'd want to see it, Tarantino playing in the Star Trek world, for example. Is there anything that you can think of that he should, have a go at?
I mean, it's outrageous and it'd never work in a million years. But what if he did it and you managed to end 2 things in one go and he directed Fast 11?
And me, how
exactly?
I don't think Vin Diesel's a strong enough actor to pull off the snappy dialogue. Like, he struggles with like single syllables. So I can't see how he's going to pull off a Royale with cheese, if I'm perfectly honest.
You go from the last scene of driving down a damn wall to then 3 hours of dialogue-heavy interchange about family and morals and the value of the combustion engine and all this. It's about completely flip it on his. Yeah, he's never really done an action film before.
Yeah, not like a straight sort of over the top nonsense action. No, I just want to see a scene with Vin Diesel and Lil B driving in a car, both wearing suits. Yeah, that's a good shout. That is shout. Excellent. Right, I think we'll leave it there for this week then. Gonna have the week off next week. Nothing planned. Need to have a break, so we thought we'd have one. Every time there's a 5-week month, I think we'll take the last week off because we're busy boys and we need to recuperate and we've got films to watch. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a question cast and we'll probably be watching a Nick Cage film. I need to sort that out to figure out which one we have because I've been very slack on that front.
Are we going to put an old episode of Filmcast out for the people for something to do?
Potentially. I haven't quite decided. So the thing is, we had an email from our friends at the production company and I'm trying to get a free DVD out of them. So if I can get a free DVD, we can do an episode on cult films. But if I don't get a free DVD, fuck them. It all depends on that, basically, whether or not we do an episode next week. But, I mean, the last one was you, Matt, and Nate.
Yeah. We made him watch it.
Street, was it?
No, it was the other one. It was Football Factory.
Football Factory.
You know what? It was just link it to that episode because that was hilarious. Trying to an American trying to understand early 2000s Adidas poppers trousers and Danny Dyer.
I don't think I've seen Football Factory. I think I've seen Green Street. I think that's the one I can't remember.
You need to. I mean, when I watched it again, I couldn't believe how bad it was. Like, it's a proper like moment in time thing, as you'd expect it to be. But it's like, yeah, football actually never was like this.
No,
it was never this bad. Not in 2000, anyway.
Ridiculous. Absolutely awful. Anyway, make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast you listen to us on, and a 5-star review is a must, and we would love you forever for it. Socials at Cage Fighting Pod, emails cagefightingpod@gmail.com. For this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone. I'm now going to watch Jackie Brown in the next 2 weeks, finally. The first time we know it. But, again, we haven't said it today. If there's any weird shit that you want us to watch, I mean, we've watched some mad stuff, especially these screeners for the last few weeks, and the one coming up, which is another sight to behold. If there's anything obscure that you think we might not have watched before, or if we have watched it's been a long time, like NeverEnding Story was, drop us the info, and we'll do it. We've got nothing else to do. Why not? Goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a real schedule in place as such for some of the weeks, so just throw it out there and we'll happily abide. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, and remember, be excellent to each other.